Hi, well, thanks for having us today, everybody. We did provide some copies of the presentation. We also have one here. Thank you, Diane, for helping us out there and getting that up and running and ready to go. Copy for all of you. Really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about the upcoming capital bond measure to build a high school between the two communities of Canal and Pioneer. And this is really a chance for us to provide that information and to answer any questions that you may have. The goal for Marty and I was really just to make sure that all of Mason County, as many as we could anyways, would have the information that they would need to do that.
Thank you, Dietrich, for being here, because we'll be recording all the
Fantastic. Much appreciated.
So with regards to the timeline, what we want to share is this is, we're putting the bond on the ballot February 13th of 2018, but, we've been working on this concept since, mid-November of 2016. When we became aware that Sheldon School District was going to place a bond on the ballot, February of 2017, we knew that that had some impact to our district and taxpayers, and so we started to engage in conversations with agencies across the state around what possible reactions we could have to that. We put together a community input plan that was pretty well received in our communities around feedback on three choices. One, keep doing what we're doing, which is paying non-high annual fees for M&O taxes and paying additional fees as it relates to capital for their capital improvements at the high school, because that bond did pass. Option 2 was annexation, just become a part of the Shelton School District. And option 3 was pursue a high school. And so I'll get to the results in just a minute. In the meantime, what we did from our two districts is we started meeting with leaders not only in the county but across the state, and really spent the last year and a half learning about what's possible and what we could build within our two districts. Next slide. So that survey feedback was really shocking to me, because I'll tell just a little story. When we were trying to pass our current, we just finished construction at Pioneer. We spent 17 years and 14 failures to get through that process, and there was a time where we reached out to the community and said, give us some feedback. What do we need to do differently? We had 20 to 30 responses. So when we sent out this survey last spring, I'm shocked to see that we had 833 responses between the two districts. Of those, between the two districts, 72% said not build a high school, but pursue a high school on what's potentially, or what's our potential options for building a high school. So we were really shocked to see those numbers come back and see, really so direct towards we need to look at a high school as an option.
Super exciting. We often get asked, well, the vision for the high school, what's it built on? And we always say the vision for this high school is definitely built on this idea of streams. And so we've taken the traditional notion of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and really tried to make it applicable to our county in the sense of continuing to look at literacy and reading, arts and service, believing service to be an important component of what happens here in Mason County. I always tell people, imagine a time where students engaged in high school projects are doing some service learning based on the content that they're learning in front of them and applying that back in their home communities. We're very excited about that. Marty and I have also been talking with businesses about business partnerships, particularly in the area of aquaculture and forestry. Two good reasons for that. We're really, one, taking a look to see, can we get the content that kids normally learn in school to be connected to our own industries in Mason County? And we believe that there's a real need for hands-on, project-based learning opportunities for our kids to get those real-life, job-embedded experiences. So our goal is just to have kids come out of the high school program in a way that they are job-ready. I was at apprenticeship, 2-year or 4-year college readiness, so that it's not just one of those tracks, but the possibility exists for all of that. To make that happen, we really think of our program as being comprehensive. And by comprehensive, we mean we're going to look at the 24 credit graduation requirement list that's currently out there right now, and we're going to look at those core courses, those personalized pathways, and those electives, no question about it. Marty and I often get asked, wow, would you be able to offer the same comprehensive experience that is offered, say, in a Shelton High School or a North Mason High School? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. Marty will talk a little bit here about kind of how big this high school would be and what classification we're in. But in the classification that we have, we know that we could offer those same sports, extracurricular-wise, but we also know we would be in a place to offer band, drama, and choir back to kind of that streams foundation, we really think that arts and service and certainly literacy are other areas where kids will connect to the school system as well.
So one of the key considerations or key questions we get asked is, would this school be large enough to where we could draw enough apportionment dollars in order to compete with schools across our region? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you take a look at this slide, what this articulates is 384, and you see there Oakesdale is 384, and what that means is there are 384 high schools in the state of Washington that are in the WIAA classifications. They're the smallest school, and how they get there is there's 27 students. They take an average of 9, 10, and 11th graders, and they re-average them and reclassify them every couple of years. So they're the smallest school in our state as it relates to classifications and athletics. The largest school is South Kitsap, and they, in grades 9 through 11, they have 2,024 students. This high school would have 408 students in that in grades 9 through 11. And as you can see, if you rank order 1 to 384, it almost falls in the 50th percentile. My argument is, when it comes to operational cost, the state of Washington create apportionment and support of schools based on the averages. They don't make them based on the smallest schools or the largest school, but the average size schools. So this school would fall, it's actually the 47th percentile, but it's close enough that it round up to the 50. It would fall in that 50th percentile ranking. So it would be a single A, 1A classification, and it would participate in the Evergreen Athletic Conference with Montesano, Alma, Hoquiam, Forks, and Tenino. So, cooperative. This is a key consideration for both districts, but primarily for Pioneer because, we have had our capital struggles. We need to make sure that we bring a good business plan to our community. They want to know they're getting a good deal. And so we've been able to work between two districts to come up with potentially a good business plan for our tax base. We know that it's going to take approximately $60 to $70 million to build a high school with full athletic complex. For that $60 to $70 million, we feel like we can build a 100,000 square foot facility that would house up to 750 students. How we get to the $70 million is Canal has put a bond on the ballot for February 13th of 2018 for $30 million, and so has the Pioneer School District. So we have matching resolutions for $30 million each. Then we anticipate between $5 and $10 million of state match or matching funds. And that brings us to $65, $70 million. And we use that based on a cost estimate that an architect ran for us and his cost estimator, as well as a comparison type project in North Mason. Just completed a 120,000 square foot facility without athletic complex. So we are continuing to work to secure a site and location. We're targeting, if you see the map up there in the upper right-hand corner, as many do not know, we do share a border between our two districts, and it's just north of Lake Limerick. We're targeting that area to keep the transportation of students and transporting students to a minimal level. And so that's really our sweet spot and where we're looking to target. We haven't secured that site just yet. We're really delaying all of the work and all the agreements between the two districts until we find out if this is real between our two communities. We do have a significant event on February 13th. Supermajority is very difficult to gain in our communities, but if that does occur, then we would pursue site location and operational agreements between the two districts immediately before selling any bonds. This district with 550 students in those grades 9 through 12, we ran a report that's right off of OSPI. It's called the F203X, and we would generate for that 550 FTE $5.6 million of operational funds. That does not include federal, that does not include state local tax, M&O local taxes, and it doesn't also include SPED funding. So that would be just general ed type apportionment that we would utilize to operate the additional FTE that would be coming to our school systems. And you know, the cooperative measure we also have there, you know, that we're really hoping to get out ahead of this, what we see from both the city and the county, this expectation that there is growth coming to our communities. I can speak to it on behalf of our district. We've gone from 2.5 years ago sitting on 635 students to 750-ish today. And so we're starting to see that bulge come through into our communities, and I really feel like we can get out ahead of this and have facility answers not only for the county, but also the city. And how that works is the high school, Shelton High School, when they open their doors with our 2 districts feeding into them, will have in grades 9 through 12 approximately 1,400 kids at Shelton High School. Very large high school. And their seats will be minimal as far as like the ability to grow beyond that. And so this, if we could build this high school, we would alleviate some space in the Shelton system at their own high school to alleviate some potential taxes and growth need at their own high school within a few years down the road. So I really think we can get out ahead of this projected growth for city folks and also county folks if we can build this.
We often get asked a little bit about the conceptual drawings, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity for us to kind of take a look at what would a 40-acre facility look like in terms of thinking about fields. As you can see over there on the left-hand side in your drawing as well, parking lot in the front, including kind of the site or building location, building map itself. So here's the entire site map: football and yours, baseball, softball, soccer, tennis. The site, as we'll see over there on the right-hand side, and then as we mentioned there, obviously septic and stormwater. So we're looking for facilities or site plans that can house about 40 acres for that. On the right-hand side then is an opportunity to take a look at maybe how that facility could be structured to support our business model or plan about incorporating businesses into those wings. So we foresee a time where some of those wings might indeed be created to support that integrated project-based learning we talked about. So imagine a forestry wing or an aquaculture wing, or an opportunity for folks to really engage in some of that course content, along with everything else you see, including any honors classes or CTE work that would be going on. You can see a gym and an auxiliary gym there. A nice opportunity to look at band, choir, and music in the center with a commons location that could house that and serve as both a concert venue as well as an opportunity for students to participate in other events. On the right-hand side in the front is kind of that library, that entrance where we foresee an opportunity for community members to be an active part of this facility, and would certainly be or open their doors to community members who wanted to have meetings or those kinds of things in the facility as well. We also get asked about the cost. So in your slideshow there, you can kind of see that asking about what is the total financial package for the 2 school districts, and how does that compare to the current Shelton School District total estimated cost at this particular time. So Marty and I believe it's important to put all the costs that are a part of our voters. And so for Hood Canal School District at the top, you can see we have a current maintenance and operations levy, which still does go to pay for some of those costs that McCleary doesn't fully fund. So that's an important for our voters. We would not need to run an additional M&O levy to support this high school. That's important as well. Marty and I often get asked, well, would you need to run something separately from that? The answer to that is no. Our current maintenance and operations levy would help cover the cost for high school as well as our current operations. We now have a current M&O levy at $1.72. We have a bond for our current building at 79 cents a thousand, which will expire in December 21. And right now we have anticipated running our bond for $1.36 a thousand, for a total cost to our voters of $3.87 per thousand. You can see Marty's current M&O at $2.09. The bond for his current middle school and elementary schools at $1.06. And then, of course, the Cooperative High School, as he structured the bond, for 99 cents a thousand, a total cost of $4.14 per thousand for his voters. And then we do get asked how that compares in terms of looking at Shelton's rate. So you can see their current M&O, the bond for current, their new bond, and then their total estimated cost of $8.11 a thousand for their voters. So as Marty and I mentioned, part of the goal for us was not only to be innovative, it was not only to create community pride, but it was to create a fiscal package that could be good for our voting base. And so we believe we've been able to capitalize on some of that. In terms of thinking about renting or owning, it was one of those ideas that actually a voter in Marty's base came out and said, you know, you guys, I think it's the difference between owning and operating our own cooperative high school or renting. And we really liked that model and think it makes good sense for our voting community, in the sense that we are asking our voters, how do you want to go? Which direction do you want to go with our money? And so certainly the idea we're proposing is about owning and controlling your own destiny, both in terms of program costs as well as voting for our public. Right now, we do not have the opportunity to vote on the Shelton School District initiatives. And so we compare that to renting and continuing to pay those annual payments, which is something that we want our voters to be aware of. So operating our own cooperative high school allows us definitely to be in control of that destiny. And of course, there's always opportunities for comments or questions, and so we know this is not where the conversation sometimes stops, but we did want to invite all of you to be able to have any community member contact us at the email addresses listed there, and of course, a reminder for our voters about the approximate dates ballots are mailed and the election itself happening on the 13th. So we wanted to take a moment and just say a big thank you for letting us come out and share the information for you today, and we'd love to answer any questions that the three of you may have.
For those that are watching on Mesa Web TV, perhaps you could actually say those out loud, how to get a hold of you?
Sure, be happy to do that. So both Martin Brewer and myself, Shawn Batstone, are available for questions or comments. So please email Marty Brewer at mbrewer, that's mbrewer at psd402.org, or Shawn Batstone at sbatstone, that's sbatstone, at Hood Canal School, all one word, .org.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have a couple. So you talked about the growth in student population at Pioneer School. Shawn, do you know the numbers? Are you growing?
I do, yeah. So Marty compared it to about 6 years ago. So when I first joined 6 years ago, we were at 275. We're at 309 right now. So even in a place where Hood Canal doesn't have the same industry access that most of our other communities do, but even in our community, we see an increase of growth there as well.
Okay. And when I look at the numbers, and that's really helpful to people. So a person residing in the Shelton School District pays what, $8.11? Is that how that works?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Per
about
thousand.
per thousand. Right. So the new bond amount of $1.81, it's prorated a bit for your school districts. Is that correct?
Well, they actually, it's not necessarily prorated. What happens is when a high school district passes a bond election, then we go through a process to determine a fair manner to support that capital improvement. There's a lot of different formulas out there you can use. Primarily it's around assessed valuation and FTE. And so when last November, when Shelton was working through the numbers, they produced a bill, so to speak, for about $4.6 million for us, about $4.2 million for the Hood Canal School District, and stated that as an estimate or beginning portion or beginning point of that negotiation. And that was a combination of assessed valuation was weighted higher than FTE. So if districts can't come to agreement on those terms, then it goes to what's called a regional committee that's put together by way of our local ESD, and the regional committee makes the final determination on what the capital fees that non-high districts would pay to the high school district. So it's a convoluted process, and there's no real black and white formula to utilize to determine what is the portion that's needed from each of the non-highs.
But if we're moving forward on just the Shelton School District, being the feeder schools in Shelton School District, or Shelton High, I'm recalling what happened to Greatview School District, where they had to go back out to their voters when the North Mason bond.
Correct.
Would the same thing need to happen to the voters in your districts?
Yes, if we don't pass this high school election, we would have to go out to our voters and ask for probably, I'm speaking from Pioneer Schools District standpoint, we'd probably look at a capital projects levy.
So, and I'm thinking about, for the voters' information, you know, if we look at the cooperative high school levy amount, is there, you know, will you be in a position to be able to compare, and it sounds like you're not yet, to compare, you know, a new high school would cost 99 cents per thousand, where as opposed to whatever the cost would be to help pay for your portions of the Shelton.
We determined that when we decided, we went out and collected that information for about 3 months from our tax base, and that's where the 833 responses came in, and we did produce a number that said, keep doing what we're doing. And for Pioneer, it was about 72 cents per thousand for 6 years to pay that $4.5-ish million. But when our board decided to put a bond on the resolution, that's now behind us. Everything that we produce from this point forward is what it's going to cost us to build a high school. And that's been I get where you're going, that cost comparison to A or B, but our board has made it very clear in the Pioneer School District that we're promoting a high school at this point in time.
So you don't have to come up with the monies to pay that $4 million. I guess now I'm thinking about the timing. You know, you've got this election coming up, and then however long it takes to build a school. You know, will there be an overlap where your school district will still be responsible for some help to pay for this bond?
Could be.
Shown?
Could be.
Okay.
Our position is that the RCW does allow for a 2-year window for school districts to go through a process to determine their long-term vision for their district. And as of February 13th, we'll be a year into that process. We feel like the regional committee has final authority in that discussion. And we feel like if we go out and take a bond to our voters and pass that, it's a very different conversation or a very different circumstance for the regional committee to consider. There's no way that, Terry, that we would have a school up and running in 2 years behind it. So, you know, there will need to be a discussion based on what we might need to, you know, consider around temporary setting for our high school students until our facility is up and operational. But that would be determined by the regional committee and/or a negotiation between the 3 districts. Right, Shawn?
That's correct.
But
Understood.
in total failure, because I was one of the same things that you were asking. So in total failure, you're looking at 72,000 or 72 cents for 6 years. You're probably at what, 94? Yeah, for 6 years to offset it. Probably, but you still have to do something for at least the next couple of years, which, interesting. Good question. Go ahead.
Made.
Yeah.
At the presentation you gave at the joint meeting of the school boards at Pioneer School, you made a comment that there was a supportive atmosphere in this community, and that the timing was good. Now, I know that it's apples and oranges to some extent, where we just came off an election where voters said no on a tax increase. And I'm hearing that going into the future, and I've not heard the reasoning behind a lot of it, but that folks are very reticent to consider a tax increase for whatever reasons. But I know education tends to be its own ball of wax. One of the things you had said was, building on this momentum going on right now in the Mason County community, we think we're going to go out once and be one and done. And I don't want to take away the energy behind this, but I just want to say, as a citizen of Pioneer School District, I hope that wouldn't be the case. That sometimes people need this message. The amount of time it takes to get the message out about how important this is. And I know that's up to your board.
Yeah, and it is definitely up to the boards, and certainly we've talked about that. And I think one of the important points on that contention is we really said, you know, we're going to invest everything we have right now to make this one go in February, which is why we're working so hard at doing what we're doing. Clearly, though, there would be a need to see what is the voter turnout for the upcoming election and what is the percentage. I think there's a big difference if you have such a wide margin of people saying yes. I mean, if only 30% of our populations together said this is a good idea, then that's a very different discussion than being around the 58, 59 marker and being super close to a super majority. So I think one of the things we said there is we're going to put everything we've got into the first run, and then our board said, let's see where that goes, and then determine whether or not a second running is a possibility, Terry. So that's a great question.
Sure.
Just, I think more comments than questions. I think at this point, Shawn and I had breakfast yesterday with some folks, and we're talking about this project and some other things that are happening in Canal School District. And I'm really, as former educator myself, very excited about the curriculum opportunities that this presents. And I think when we have conversations in the community about workforce development and where we're going to get a skilled workforce from in the coming years, and not to mention, Marty, to your point, the population growth that we're anticipating, this is a fantastic opportunity, I think, for Mason County to be a leader and provide a model. I think from what I understand, this is the first of its kind in the state, and I think we have a real opportunity here, and I think, I couldn't be more excited to have this be in our community. When we talk about growth and those kinds of things, reminded of a saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is today. And so I don't want to be caught unprepared for the likely growth that we're going to see. And so I just appreciate the visionary leadership that you brought to this, and your board's support for it as well. And very excited to see this come to fruition.
It's not often that you see two K-8s come together, which is what Kevin was talking about, speaking about an opportunity to account for the financial sense about where this is going, but also, as Kevin pointed out, to really have a sense of creating your design from scratch. That is really true in a high school setting. It is a rare opportunity to build something from the foundation up based on what you know to be true about good high school education. So hopefully we have a chance to steer that in that direction. Thank you for the feedback.
And we're hoping that if this, pass or fail, we're hoping that this can open up conversations at the state level around OSPI, around potentially long-term solutions for other non-highs across our state.
Absolutely.
We've talked before on this, and my vision of it's actually, our understanding is pretty simple: local control, local ownership, local impact on what your own children are going to do, what they're going to focus on, take advantage of their opportunities. And the idea that the smaller school is not a bad idea for me. I think it's extremely beneficial. The closer you get to the student, one-on-one, the benefits outweigh everything. So the idea of you doing this yourself and putting together a school small enough to actually work with the students is beneficial for our whole community. I'm not confused on that at all. So,
Well, and I think to that point, we look at the push for smaller class sizes and, and more individualized learning opportunities. I mean, this fits right in with that, that model and that track that we're taking statewide. And so it's fantastic.
and because you're small, you're still frugal.
Also, and I kind of joked about this yesterday, but, if we were to just kind of do status quo, it's very similar to taxation without representation.
Yes. I appreciate that one so much.
That is it.
Very much appreciate that.
That's correct.
Not everybody appreciated it the first time I said it.
This is very exciting, and
Wow.
holding out my best, and it's interesting, because this is going to be a election that finally we get to vote in our community. There'll be a lot going on down here in Shelton. But
Well, that's ultimately the goal, right, was to allow our communities the opportunity based on that feedback to let us know how they wanted to move forward. So hopefully we'll have a chance to do that.
Any other questions, Commissioner? Anything else?
All right. No, thank you. Just
Thank you
again,
for the
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
again.
again.
we'll
Thanks
see you
to
all
you.
on Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me